One of the great fun things of being editor-at-large of anything is you have, a good title and you're not really responsible for anything. But you get to meet fascinating people, and I just got to meet an incredible, fascinating person here, student Kaleia Cook. But before Kaleia, I met Susie Armstrong. And we met recently in a program. We were looking at mobility and how 5G, quantum computing, artificial intelligence, all of the converging of all sorts of technologies are literally going to transform the options that we have on so many different fronts. What's going to happen within cities and how our lives will be different when sensors are communicating to different sensors and our phones. And Susie Armstrong is the person responsible, and you should all know that she's a real hero, that her technology that she invented is in all of your cell phones. So your ability to search, how many of you have been on the web on your phone this morning? Everyone. How many of you have done a photograph or taken a picture or a selfie and sent it to someone? Those are the things that Susie Armstrong invented in Qualcomm. So give her a round of applause, because you would not be having as much fun, right? So, so in Qualcomm's fascinating company. So this is not about Qualcomm. This is about great minds changing the world and doing things. And Susie happens to be one of the leading, in my view, female technologists in the nation. And I was, along with another friend of mine, Ellen Stofan. Some of you may know Ellen is the chief scientist, former chief scientist at NASA. She now heads the National Air and Space Museum. These are phenomenal women. And I just want to know, what do we do to get more of them? And why don't we have more of them? So Susie, why don't we have more of you?
So I think, there's a lot of people in the diversity arena who will say it's not just a pipeline issue, and it is not just a pipeline issue, but pipeline is table stakes. And so we at Qualcomm, and I think you've heard of a lot of other programs as well, we at Qualcomm really focus on getting especially underrepresented students interested in STEM and STEM careers. Because if you think about it, it's STEM and STEM careers, even if you go into business or you go into some of these other careers, if you have a STEM background, that just opens your doors to being Susie Armstrong. I never really thought of it that way. But I think that's a big part of the challenge, is the pipeline. And why do we have such a pipeline problem? I think traditionally, whether it's girls or whether it's kids of color, don't see themselves in engineering jobs. Somebody said to me, well, I thought engineers sat in a dark lab with, a pocket protector. I'm going to go on eBay and find a pocket protector. But our labs definitely aren't dark. So I think there's cultural barriers and there's practical barriers, and but it's really.
But you're trying to move the needle, particularly for young girls and folks like our special guest here, about how they encounter and have experiences with technology. And then there's this program called Think a Bit. You guys should all go Google it. Think a Bit. You can do it on your phones and give Susie credit. But Think a Bit is a program that helps expose young children. So tell us just a little bit about Think a Bit, and then we'll get to Kaleia.
Okay. So Think a Bit Lab is a hands-on STEM engagement program. There's a lot of wonderful STEM education programs out there. Qualcomm is full of technologists, not necessarily educators. And
are any of them fun?
They're all fun.
The technologists?
They're all fun.
That's good.
Like me.
Right.
I'm trying to be fun. Think a Bit Lab is this hands-on STEM engagement, and there's three sort of premises. It is free for underrepresented kids. We work with a lot of Title I schools, but we don't turn away anybody. It's not a competition, and we also sponsor and are very involved in FIRST Robotics, which I can talk about later. I love that program, but I think it's really important when you're exposing students to STEM careers for the first time that you sort of pull them in. You don't weed them out with a competition. And it's not a prescribed outcome. And so you're not building a kit that has to look like a certain thing. And so you get all these wonderful inventions like Kaleia's and like the sample I have here. So that's what Think a Bit Lab is a hands-on STEM engagement program. And we also do it in the context of careers, because how can a student aspire to a career that they don't exist? So we have these are some of the career cards we put together with one of our ag tech partners in rural California. And for some of the careers in ag tech, we also have a whole stack of careers that we do at Qualcomm that we engage the kids with as well.
So Kaleia, I understand that you're active in Think a Bit. You've been doing it for a few years now, right? Mm-hmm. So what has been your experience?
Like going there and then seeing that, because they have a really cool wall there where you can just grab things off and then like make whatever you want. And then like learning there, and then it's really colorful and it's just really fun to be around there and stuff, yeah.
So I hear you're really great at math and science. Mm-hmm. Do those turn you on? Is that your thing? Are you a mathlete?
I guess.
So tell me about some of the things that you built.
So I've like in 7th grade, I think, we were doing eco-friendly things, and I built like these palm trees that like spin, and they also like have solar panels on them that like give you like energy from the sun.
So the solar energy funds the spinning of the palm trees?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Where
can I get one?
I don't know.
And what else have you done?
Oh my gosh, it's been so long. We built like 3D printed like projects. We built like cars and stuff, and then see which ones like go the fastest and why they go the fastest. We've built like hurricane things. I forgot. Like a sensor that like if a hurricane's coming, it will tell you that a hurricane's coming, and it's easy, so you don't have to get it off the like news or whatever.
So barometric pressure kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And has it changed what you? I mean, I know this is an unfair question because always ask a young person what they want to be. I almost feel like it's too much pressure to ask. But do you feel like some of the things that you have done have given you options about what you might want to do in your future?
Yeah, because I don't really have an idea of what I want to be yet, but it does help me like think of like what I might want to do or like how it's going to help me in something I do end up doing.
I just met your mom. She seems pretty cool.
She is.
Yeah. So does your mom help you with your Think of It stuff?
Yeah, I usually have her like...
She's pretty intense, your mom.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's a great mom.
She is.
So tell her about your mom and Think a Bit and how she's been supportive.
She's kind of like what put me in STEM, because I didn't really ever hear about STEM before I got into middle school, and she just signed me up for it, and I was like, oh, really? But but it ended up like helping me in like all of my other classes, and like she's helped me a lot. So.
Oh, that's great. I want to ask you to show you things, but before I ask you to do this, I know, Susie, you were going to show us some of the things that kids interact with from the lab, which I think is in that tub. Is that right? So can you tell us what a child's exposure, how you get them brought in, and what does an encounter of a young person with Think of It stuff look like? Oh, that's all together. I thought it was like a little furry fuzzball.
Yeah, no, this is the real thing. So this is a project that we did with...
Why don't you show it up to the room?
This is a project that 2 high schoolers did in Porterville, California, very rural area, agricultural and mining, and we did a week-long camp there. So we have one-day experiences, and we do week-long camps too.
Now you can turn it my way because I have to see what it is. Okay.
Yeah, first tree I've ever seen with a mustache.
Is it going to do something? Does it do something?
I don't have the power pack here, but this piece, what we're trying to resolve. These were all farmers' kids, and so. This is an Arduino board, which is an open source, very inexpensive board, and then this is a temperature sensor here. And so like Kaleia's project, in Think of It Lab, you learn about careers, you learn about some simple programming and microelectronics, and then you go up to the craft wall and you build an invention of your own of your own idea. And so these kids built this, they had a problem on the farm with figuring out when trees should be fertilized, because apparently, now this is the extent of my agricultural knowledge, apparently trees are very sensitive to temperature in terms of when they should be fertilized and when they shouldn't. And so the temperature sensor actually is triggered when it gets warm enough to be fertilized, and then this project sends, if it was powered, sends the data to a tablet, and then the farmer can say, okay, it's time to fertilize. And so what we stress, what is cool about this in Kaleia's project is what we stress is you make a project from a problem that you see, not that what we see. And so, and I love the mustache
tree. So what they
tree.
saw is the mustache on the tree, and so all the little fur balls, that's the tree.
That's the tree.
And I mean, I kind of wish that they made, so like the tree is like bouncing up, fertilize me.
Yes, exactly. Oh, I like the movement idea.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Kaleia, why don't you show us your cool project which you brought in? Show us what you've made. And can I just tell you, this is actually a really cool project. I have this problem, which I will share.
We all do. I think
yeah.
she could go into business tomorrow and maybe make a fortune.
Well, let me just say before we do this, how many of you, I mean, what is the urban stems? Anybody buy urban stems for people? You know, you get the little dinosaurs and all this. So there's a company called Urban Stems, and you can get in a little white vase a very nice little orchid that someone sends you, and I just can't throw them away. So the orchids may go away, but there's a little plant there, and so I've got like a forest of Urban Stems non-orchid bearing plants, and I have them, no, it's true, and I have them in a window, and what happens is they all grow, because I am not that good a steward of them, but I water them, once a month, and they stay alive, but they all become lopsided and hanging way over because that's where the sun is. So we'll use that as the preamble. Does anybody have that problem? Be brave. Yeah, there you do. You know what I'm saying. There's one person. Okay. So show us how you're going to fix our urban STEM challenge.
Okay, so it would be powered right now, but I don't have anything to power it. It spins really.
Next year we'll fix that.
Yes,
Yeah.
It spins very slowly.
So explain what it is. It's a spin-o-matic flower pot.
Yes, my mom came up with that name. It spins very slowly because to get sunlight from around, otherwise because my mom's plants, they usually grow towards the sun and look sad. And then, but if it gets sunlight from all around, then it will grow straight up and it'll be really pretty.
So go straight. Are these real or are these just?
No, they were from Kaleia flowers.
Oh, okay. Very, very nice. Well, yeah, so this spins, and how fast does it move around? Very slowly?
Yeah, you can, I'm sure, depends on how fast you want it, but I don't want it too fast. It's as slowly, maybe, I don't know, but yeah.
Well, it's great. Well, I want them, and I want to know when you start production, so we can talk about that later, and then we can sign up the team, the crowd here to get it. Let me ask. So, what are some of the other things? Have you watched what some of your other student friends have made as their projects?
Yeah, someone in a lower grade than me, his name is Anthony. He made this garage sensor thing that if you back up into the garage, then it will beep and tell you not to hit the back of the garage, and it will turn on lights for you, and then it was really cool. He's in 7th grade.
Fascinating. So one of the things I'm interested in is how long has Think a Bit been in place?
It's been in place about 4 years. Mm-hmm. We started in San Diego at our headquarters, looking at, actually it was started out of 2 observations, engineers wanting their kids to have some exposure to STEM programs, and then this observation that we would not have anybody to hire or use our technology if we don't do some work around the pipeline issue. And the other thing I wanted to mention about Think a Bit Lab, like our other STEM programs, it's a wonderful internal employee engagement mechanism as well. We get a lot of volunteers through our ambassador program. With First Robotics, we actually fund do small funding for all of the teams, any team that an employee is going to be a FIRST Robotics coach and mentor of gets some funding as well. And so a lot of parents come into the STEM world via their kids and these kinds of, and employees in these kinds of programs as well.
Is there enough going on? I mean, it occurs to me, I used to go to an annual dinner. It was the Intel Science Awards. And for those of you who know the Intel world, they also would do, this was the successor to the Westinghouse Awards. And these were young innovators that were coming up with science prizes, and it was the things we would see in the movies. But I didn't know we were still doing that kind of thing. And I went one year with the CEO of Intel, and I met a woman, young woman in college that had done something fantastic with in the bio space. That was, I can't remember what it was, but it was just incredible. And Intel wanted to invest in it later. But it raised this question for me in that I almost never hear about those prizes anymore. I hadn't known about Think a Bit. What do we need to do to make this more of a known passion, like a vital habit, if you will, of exposing young people to science, young women to science?
So I think those prizes still are out there, and companies like Intel and Boeing and educational companies do a phenomenal. Microsoft has really good programs as well. Our observation is that in order to have students go into STEM fields, they have to be interested, and that was a problem. And that's why we stress the engagement piece so much, because without students being interested, they don't go in, they don't enter these. So I think there's a lot of wonderful education programs. I like the prizes, but you don't have to be Einstein and you don't have to be Ellen Stofan to have an incredible career in STEM or a STEM-related field. So we are trying to throw a broad swath. To me, Think a Bit Lab kind of hits a very needed niche in terms of hands-on engagement. There's a lot of online education is very interesting and such, but again, how are you going to get these students interested in these programs? They're not going to go for an online, degree, right? If they're not interested. And I'm actually very interested in seeing if some of these engagement techniques that actually work so well for younger people actually work for retraining as well. Because I've heard stories about, retraining workforce. We work with the workforce development groups and some of the retraining seminars where, people are being laid off from, air conditioning and manufacturing companies, and they're just not interested in programming or IT and such. And part of me thinks, maybe they're being approached wrong. I mean, I'm not sure they're going to make they're going to make projects like this, but I think the engagement piece
I have lots more
really
questions,
key.
but let me just scan the audience. Any questions for my, right, let's go right here. But I'm not done with you yet. So, yeah. Okay, right here, and then we'll come. Yes, hi.
Good morning. My name is Ola Olude Afolabi. I have a PhD in artificial intelligence. And I want to say thank you so much, Ms. Armstrong, for such a great job. And I want to say thank you to Kaleia. I have 3 daughters. And you say you're a 9th grader?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have 3 daughters. I have a 7th, an 8th, and 12 who just went to college. And she did the same thing. She designed a robot that sorts trash. And she got the idea just the same way she went to class. My question to Ms. Armstrong is, do we have this? I know you said they have the engagement issues. Do we have a program that moves into all these middle schools, to increase the STEM education or to increase the engagement of these young girls?
Terrific question. Let me hold that. I'm going to get this gentleman right up here because I originally pointed at you as well. So let's get you both questions, then we can handle them together. Good morning.
Good morning. My question is regarding why do we we need so much effort to get people into science when people flock to art knowing they're going to be poor, knowing they're, but the passion is there. Why is that? Why is science so hard to sell?
Great question. So can we talk about both about what we can do to kind of
Yeah.
broaden STEM and also what we can do more, or why isn't it something that where gravity takes you towards science more naturally?
Right. And so to the former, how can we get more people into STEM and how do these programs feed in, I think was your question. And it's really important in this engagement that you actually work with, there's a place for that interest to go. And so we work with other educational programs, we work with schools, and the teachers, we don't just offer to everybody. We want to have a set of interested administrators and teachers who will take that interest and pull it and take it somewhere. Because I think that's critical. Otherwise, you spark an interest in a week-long class, and then if there's no place to go, then it's like game over. To the other point, why is it hard to get people interested in science and such? I think for me, I entered computer science in the dark ages, and I was going to be a veterinarian. And I think I got engaged because my first programming class was like a puzzle. But I have read statistically robotics has pulled in the last 20 years, has pulled in accessible robotics and accessible microelectronics have pulled in a tremendous number of girls because it's tangible. You can make interesting things with your hands. But I don't know that I have a silver bullet for how we get more people interested in it. I find the best engineers are very creative people. Often, I do creative things on the side as well, and so that's the other thing I love about Think a Bit Lab is we call it a STEM program. It's actually a STEAM program,
Right.
And it pulls in. I think that's one of the unique aspects of it is that crazy craft wall. We're a big client of Oriental Trading. We never throw away anything. Every kid on the planet likes to cut the head off a plush toy. So I think it's partially the creativity that pulls some of these students in. But it's a really good question, and I think we throw it out to the
I will
audience.
say, because I think it's an interesting question as well, but my decision and our decision to invite Susie and Kaleia up here is because whether it's an uncomfortable thing to talk about, and I'm always talking to folks about the micro and the macro. In the micro, I can find a billion moments of great leadership, of students like Kaleia, something that was a unique thing. In the macro, we're missing it if we don't understand there's a bias against young women going into engineering. And so if you overcome that by creating systemically exposure opportunities, then in the end you may get something. So both can be simultaneously true. We can have the Kaleia cooks, and we can also be failing in overcoming, I think, what have been biases in society. So I think it's slightly different than what you asked, but I do think that, from my own experience, I see it out there. From my traveling, I see it out there. And I also find it weird because the other thing is, globally, if you look at women in engineering around the world, women in engineering around the world outside the United States outnumber men. It is not the case in the United States. So it's something we haven't talked about either. What is going on over there that we're not doing here? So Kaleia, my last quick question to you, because I always like to give people a chance to speak. If you were going to do one thing to improve Think a Bit, what would it be?
I would probably have schools talk about it more, because I found out about it through school, and if someone that works there goes to our school, talks about it, and then has our class go there, or just have posters or something on schools and stuff. Yeah.
Great. Well, I will make sure that they hear that critique. Right, Susie? Ladies and gentlemen, Kaleia Cook and Susie Armstrong, thank you both so much for being with us.
Thank you.